Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alien versus Predator Galaxy podcast, the original Alien and Predator podcast.
He's bringing the tagline back.
I keep when I'm listening to the edits and stuff, I'm like, you forgot to do the tagline again. I was like, yeah, fine, okay. This is Aaron Percival, aka Corporal Hicks, and joining me, as always, are my fellow. I can't say hunting partners for this one. Fellow skydivers. I'm not sure that quite works either, but fellow folk being thrown out of an alien spaceship.
There you go. Adam Zeller, aka RidgeTop.
And Erick Adams, aka Xenomorphine.
And this is episode 171.
Damn.
You say that, but the rate we're going,
we'll get to 200 next year if we're lucky.
It depends on the success of our upcoming Patreon.
That's true. That's we should have had a launch by now, but we are in the final
as of recording
stages.
We should have had a launch by now.
We are in the final stages, and as of recording is end of August. Next week should be up. So
and proceeds from that, the immediate thing I'm going to be doing is funneling it into getting editors for the podcast, so we can get through stuff quicker, because this has been a shit year for my turnaround.
A charity for homeless chest bursters or something.
No, for depressed website admins and editors who can't quite get through enough podcasts this year, especially because I'm anal. And even you know what, even the ones that I paid for last month or month before, I still did the second pass on them anyway. So I mean, look, the hard part's the first pass. And it's just like being a showrunner on a TV show. Every episode goes through the showrunner, so it's just the same, but it means the hard part I don't have to do.
Yeah, but perfect is the enemy of good enough.
That's true. You just have a point, Aaron.
I know, but
you just want it to be perfect.
I want it to be as good as I want it to be, and I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear you all licking your lips or fucking umming and breathing down my throat. So I don't want to hear it in other podcasts, so I don't want other people to hear it in ours.
No, we're going to start a new channel. It's going to be AvP Galaxy ASR.
ASR.
That's right.
Yeah. That's what we're going to do.
Well, that, Eric, can be your upcoming YouTube project.
Yeah, the sister channel. It'll be all
those things like, what are they talking about today?
Yeah.
So
what are we talking about?
Well, just so that makes sense, Eric's working on his own channel. Yes, this is well, I don't know why we do it like this, because obviously every fucker knows what it's going to be from the title of the podcast or the news post or the image on Facebook, whatever. But we are discussing the second Marvel series, Predator: The Preserve.
Ooh.
Written by Ed Brisson again, returning from The Day of the Hunter. With Netho Diaz taking over for pencils and Bellardingo Brabo doing the colours. I'm fucking terrible with names. Doing the colours on this one, I believe. Anyway, let me just double check and get to the credit page. No. Bellardino is inks. Colours are by Erick Arciniega. I apologise for all those butchered names. But yes, this is the second of Marvel arc. The first arc, I think we were all okay with. I think we all basically gave it 7s out of 10s. I just revisited the podcast. I should remember this. But yeah, I think we all gave it 7 out of 10s. And I think for the most part, it was just Theta we were all a little, not too happy with. Now this one, I really fucking enjoyed it. Like not a 10 out of 10, but definitely liked it more than Day of the Hunter. I'd probably go for an 8, 8.5 with this one. Still some issues. Well, I'd say I only really have one big issue, and that's again Theta. That was her showing up at the end of the first issue. But we can talk about that in a bit. I thought the artwork was great. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a nice, straightforward, simple story that played on the wider Predator lore, and it was super fucking fun to go and revisit the game preserve concept from Predators. I think this is not the first, because we had the short story in
Ultimate
AvP, Ultimate Prey. Yeah, but Predators isn't something that gets revisited often, so that was a huge treat, especially as somebody who has a real fondness for that film. So yeah, really enjoyed this one. I thought it was great, and was quite happy when this one was all said and done. What about you, Adam? What did you think of this one? Short review, sorry.
Yeah, better than the first, definitely. Less stylized artwork. This was going for more realism with the artwork. So that was nice to see. I mean, I didn't mind the stylized look of the first one. It kind of reminded me of the original Predator Hunters comic, but I do kind of prefer a look like this when it comes down to it. So,
well, when you say realism, I don't think we're talking like the kind of crap that the photorealistic kind of look that Marvel Star Wars tries to do. I think it felt more like a comic, but without being a comic. It felt like a Dark Horse era. Piece of artwork, I think.
Yeah, the art was really well done. I also appreciated them revisiting the game preserve planet concept. I didn't have as much of an issue with Theta. I think in the original as well, I didn't have as much of an issue with her, and I do like how they develop her character here and her continuing on this quest beyond the initial revenge she got in the last comic, and her interactions with these other human characters are really interesting as well. But yeah, overall, I think I'd be right with you, Aaron. I think I'd give it an 8. I enjoyed it more than the first, and it seems like these comics, both Alien and Predator, are kind of moving in the right direction for Marvel. So,
Eric, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think I gave the last one about 7 out of 10. This is kind of similar to me. Didn't have like major issues with it. Could it have been better? Some parts, yeah, most comics can. Could it have been worse? Yeah, a lot worse. It's this. It feels kind of like Marvel is hitting its stride better with the Predator comics than it is with the Alien ones.
Agreed, especially compared to like the debuts for Alien.
Yeah, and I think I listened to a bit of the last podcast we did on the previous story. I think Aaron said that Theta is a bit like Machiko. So this is not Machiko doing not Predators in a way. The whole first issue of this is basically a redo of Predators with original characters, and you find out they're from different time eras, which is interesting in itself. That wasn't taken as far as I would have liked, but it gives a miniature mystery which is kind of wrapped up very easily. But as a whole, yeah, it's a nice little story. It's very A to B and does exactly what it says on the tin. Like Adam said, I quite like the artwork for this one. It's in keeping with being a comic, but without being cartoonish. I think we've all had issues when some of these comics feel cartoonish. This one felt high def and realistic-ish where it needs to. Some of the new characters are interesting in their own rights. But yeah, as a whole, I liked it.
Number?
Yeah, similar, about 7 out of 10.
So lower than Adam now.
I liked it. Yeah, well, for me, like 8 out of 10, it's when it's like a classic kind of thing. And this didn't feel like
Surely that's a 10. Surely that's a 10.
No,
we're going to have another.
Here we go with the scoring again.
No, 10 out of 10 for me is absolutely I don't know if any of the comics are 10 out of 10, but a little bit better than the previous comic, I would say. So yeah, 7/8 maybe, but I liked it.
I enjoyed it a lot better. What should we? Should we do a quick rundown of plot? I guess. So It's a very straightforward plot. As Erick sort of said, the first issue is very similar to Predators, where we find a bunch of original characters deposited on a planet who very quickly, the survivors come together, and then, after being massacred by the Predators, who are then rescued by Theta, who then tries to get them to their ship. There's some extra aliens on the planet getting stuck in, which was nice as well. Who then
tell them what we see in this.
No, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Don't worry.
That was a big part of what I really liked about this, by the way, when you come to that.
Okay. So yeah, there's some other aliens on the planet. They get mixed in there, but it's basically Theta trying to get off the planet with these survivors. But then Theta gets injured during a battle. Some of the survivors try and steal the ship, while the others sort of work together. And the ship gets brought back. They all get on the ship. They all head off. Predator finds them because somebody turns on the black box. There's a little bit of a mutiny involved, which fucks everything up. And then the Predator shows up. A bunch of stuff happens. A bunch of fighting happens. More people die, and then everybody wins. So that is the short synopsis. That is the very short.
Wrapped it up there at the end.
Look, I just to whine about other podcasts again. I don't like listening to summaries. Like, if I'm going to listen to a podcast covering something, I'm going to have already seen it. So it's like a problem I have with like television podcasts. Like some of the Stargate ones I listen to. I hate hearing the episode recapped, and that takes up about 10 minutes of the runtime listening to somebody summarize something that I already know. But yeah, unless that's something the listeners like, if you want to have a blow by blow, let us know.
That's what the wikis are for.
True. That's also what the wikis are for. Where should we start with this one?
It was cool right off the bat to see the people falling and with the parachutes again, like, oh, we're doing Predators. All right, here we go. And it was also interesting because unlike Predators, we didn't have that moment where they're just figuring things out and like exploring a bit. They drop right in the middle of Predators attacking another group that has already landed there. And the character we follow actually doesn't last very long. The one we follow.
He dies in the middle of that issue, yeah.
The majority. Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
I was gonna say I liked it. I liked it starting in running because this series was 5 rather than 6, and I thought it maintained a very nice pace throughout the entire run, and hitting the ground running. Literally, I thought did well for the pacing of the entire series. So yeah, I very much liked it just being straight into the chaos. We learn on the run. We still get our, we still get our pauses and everything, but I was never bored reading this run.
Yeah. The thing I found kind of odd though was no mention of super predators here, or I'm sorry, Aaron, berserker predators.
Yeah.
And
that's fine.
I mean, I got the impression from the movie like they were the ones kind of doing the whole game preserve thing, and they brought the classic predator there. But I don't know, this kind of raises the question, maybe it's different. Maybe there's like territories of like you have certain clans that get certain territories, and that was the whole thing with the feud in the film. So
but there was a bit of, wasn't there like lots of different bits of backstory to the film? Like I'm sure the comics insinuated one thing, the motion comics in the DVDs insinuated something else. I don't remember it all very well offhand, but like one of them suggested that the super predators berserker predators had took this planet off the normal predators and all sorts of stuff like that. So I think it's an entirely non-issue and very wise to just avoid all that kind of.
Yeah, it just leaves it to your imagination. Like maybe the predators are fighting over this planet, the different clans or whatever. And
well, I mean, this one's not. It's not even remotely suggested it's the same planet.
True. I mean,
well, it doesn't clarify it's not the same. I think that was a wasted opportunity. I think they should have done, because it's a comic. They don't have a budget. I think one of the things I was hoping for. I thought, is it the same things? And there's not the super predators. So I think as soon as it clarifies it's just normal predators, I think they should have done something different with like the vegetation. They should have had like man-eating plants or something just to say, yeah, this could be a different preserve or something like that.
They
didn't do that.
Still hunting in threes though.
Yeah, it just seems to be the predator number. But I think I think it being the same planets again an entirely non-issue. You know, before Predators even came out, you know, the pinnacle of Predator literature had already visited this concept of a preserve planet.
Oh, Forever Midnight.
Forever Midnight, exactly. Yeah. So, you know, it's and that was, I think if I remember rightly in there, it was preserve planet such and such number. So I like the idea that there's many different kind of preserve planets, because I've always liked the idea of the predators having preserves, you know, these sort of hunting grounds that they just drop folk off on. I think that's brilliant. So it being the same one, it being a different one, is neither here nor there for me.
But really, only the first part of the comic takes place on the planet. Like, I was expecting more of it too, but the meat of the comic is on Theta's ship, the Sandpiper, where we have these series of mutinies that happen between the characters.
Three issues are on the planet surface.
Okay, maybe, yeah. I think you're right. I think it's the start of issue 3. I think it's the beginning of issue 3 when they leave, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe towards the middle. But I mean, the point is, you know, I think there's a good balance there. But just them revisiting this predators concept, you know, because I know I'm like one of 10 people in the world. Now there's more of us. We're just positive people are just quieter. You know, because it's not something that we see very often. The Predators fan inside me was like, yes, fucking yes, let's revisit these kind of bits and pieces. And of course, as Erick was alluding to, the fucking river ghosts are back.
River ghosts actually do something here. It's great.
Yeah, which was great. I mean, sure, it's mostly brawling,
and it's not just one. There's a group of them too. Yeah, they basically do what aliens do in a typical AvP comic. They're a stand-in for the alien kind of.
So I was kind of disappointed we didn't get a little more development into them as a, you know, a culture and society or whatever. But I was thrilled to see them back and be useful and threatening and, you know, deadly to the predators, and actually show a reason as to why that one in the first film was there. That was really cool.
Oh, can I just? I don't think they do mention the predator hounds, but I don't think we actually see the hounds.
No, we don't.
Which is weird.
There isn't
mention that they're.
Yeah,
I mean, there's only finite room in the story. I don't think it would have been necessary. I don't think the comic missed anything not having them.
There is a new.
Then you would have thought it's the Chekhov's gun thing. When you mention it, it should be in there. So I'm guessing it was in a first draft of the script or something.
There is a new large alien creature though that they find on that attacks them on the preserved planet, and that was cool to see.
It's like a tyrannid. It's great.
I thought it looked quite flowery.
Yeah, with a tentacle,
weird tentacle mouth thing, but it reminded me of that line that Nolan had in Predators, like, you know,
shit you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yeah, that was a nice expansion on the original concept, you know, to see more of these other creatures. That was always, as much as I love Predators, I do wish we'd have seen more other extraterrestrials in it. So getting two alien creatures, in this one, should I say, was really satisfying to me.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, with the group of characters, it has the interesting introduction of the concept of the predators keeping prey on ice for a certain period of time, and then you have these people from different time periods, and quickly they figure this out, like they're all from different time periods. And Theta and Paolo, her partner, were kind of surprised by this. They were like, really? What? You're all from different time periods? We didn't know about this. So it almost kind of sets it up as a sequel, that maybe they'll go after like this facility where they're keeping all these different people on ice to eventually drop on the preserve planet or planets.
So this was actually something, and I kind of have to wonder if Ed Brisson saw or heard our interview or the many Screen Rant articles that probably ripped off that information in it. But Adam, do you not remember when we spoke to Alex Litvak?
Yeah, Die Hard on a ship.
Yeah, where he talked about the idea being that all the characters had been cryo frozen from 20 whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And it ending with they being colonial marines. So I'm very curious to know if that was an intentional inspiration by, the original intent for Predators. And we are going to have Ed Brisson on the show in a month or two. I'm not sure when, but we're going to have him on the show. So we'll have to ask about how deliberate that was. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. Erick mentioned that you kind of wished there'd have been a little bit more played on there. And I kind of agree. But again, I always have to fall back on, this is a comic. You don't get as much character in there, especially on a limited series. But I really enjoyed the scene we got in the cave. I enjoyed their sort of interactions as they were figuring it out, and that it wasn't that. I don't like it when a mystery is kept too long, especially when the reader is already clued in. And I think this was part of the press material. So, it would have irritated me if it had gone on too long. So again, talking about the pace, I really do think Ed Brisson nailed the pace of this series. And I think it was done at the right sort of speed there. But it was interesting. I liked hearing them figure it out from like the innocuous flow of the conversation. I was a part of... one of the characters was a part of a specific defense force when one of the other characters was like, that's bullshit, that was disbanded 8 years ago, and another one popped up and went, no, it was 15 years ago, and them all sort of figuring it out, and how that then flowed into Theta and Paolo having no idea about this. They're very much set up as people who know a lot about the Predators, and this one is like they had no idea about the preserve, or them being people there. They had no idea about this particular behavior of the Predators. So that sort of did a bit to bring Theta and Paolo down a little bit from being these anti-Predator superheroes. The first issue kind of portrayed, at least Theta, the first series portrayed Theta as. So I liked that. But Erick, you wanted more from this dynamic.
It felt like it was the big mystery which was being set up, and then they very quickly realised, they're just freezing us and thawing us out for just funsies, and it felt like they could or should have done a bit more with it. It's like it didn't really add anything to the story by bringing we're from different time periods into it. I think what could have been interesting if they'd added someone. I think the furthest back was someone from the 80s, which is technically modern day. I think it would have been interesting if you'd have had somebody from.
I'm not sure 40 years is modern day, mate.
Yeah, but I mean, you had computers and stuff. It's more or
still
less
not modern day. No way.
Yeah, but it's more or less modern day.
No.
I would think I think it would have been interesting if you had someone from like World War II or someone from that time, because then you bring in a bit more of the Predator mythos.
And then it's too obvious. Then it's too obvious.
But then you're doing something with it as more of a plot. As it was, it just felt like different time periods. Okay, let's roll with it. I just feel like they could have done something a bit more with it.
I kind of liked it more subtle where they had to figure it out, but it was still a span of like 40 to 50 years. Like, still, you have these two OWLF soldier characters that are a married couple, and they're pretty distraught because you find out later they have a daughter back home. But for them, it had been like, I think it was 2017 or 2018.
Yeah, it was
so
like
it had been like 30
Ripley
years.
thing.
Yeah. And
but that was interesting in that it also, again, it's a comic, so you're not going to get huge character arcs, but it informed their motivations as the series went on. You know, for those OWLF members, it was shit. We have abandoned our daughter for when's this set? It's in the 2060s, isn't it? So you know, near enough 40 years. So it informed their sort of decisions to be like, shit. Well, for this to be worthwhile, we got to bring something back. But then on the other side, you had like Alan, who was the character from the 1980s, who was like, I've got nothing. Everybody's probably dead. Do you mind if I join up with you guys? So you know, there was some. I liked the way it informed the character, some of the character motivations and interactions later down the line. Could there have been more? Sure, but I think that was fodder for, you know, a real deep dive fodder for a novel. You know, there's is it Joseph Holden novel whose entire thing is about time displaced characters in the Forever War, which is a brilliant fucking novel, by the way. If you haven't read it, I do recommend reading that. It's been a while since I've read it. I should go back to it. But yeah, for a comic, I thought it was very well used in the limited, you know, sort of 5-issue series. And it's a nice expansion of the Predator mythos. You know, it feeds into this idea of the preserve. Again, love the preserve. The idea that they are kidnapping people of interest was always cool to me, but kidnapping them and just popping them in cryo was great. You know, the idea that there's perhaps some guy walking down or checking the logs on a Predator computer going, "Ooh, this guy sounds interesting." Yeah, that one there too.
And keep an inventory. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I think I fancy the Japanese Defense Force guy. Let's pop him on. You know, it's part of that wider mythos of the predators when they're not killing. You know, the shipbuilders, the bureaucracy kind of thing.
I have to. There is an obvious issue with that, but the comic itself does acknowledge that. You have Alan, the guy who's just basically he has fights in pubs, and he says, "Well, you're all from the military. I'm just a bloke who just."
It wasn't just that, though, was it?
I can't see why they're not keeping track of us guys. And you think, as a reader, so it's nice that the comic itself acknowledges that. So it's still a bit.
Well, there was
why
more.
Are they doing it?
There was more to him than him just being a bruiser in a pub. You know, he was
an
enforcer for British mob.
But he just beats people. He's nothing special. So it's
obviously
nice that the comic itself. It's like the comic itself acknowledges this, so it's implying there might be a bit more of a mystery, which I like.
I thought it was more in terms of hanging a light on Edwin, in that they were aware of more than just obvious deadly people.
But he's always been a plot hole in Predators. They shouldn't have known his past. That was the problem with Edwin in the film.
No, I didn't find that the problem. I didn't find that the problem with Edwin in the film. I think he was miscast for a start, and they didn't work it properly. The idea that his
secret was he's a serial killer.
Why is that not interesting? It's
interesting, but the Predators had no way to know it, so why did they pick?
Well, no, that's why it is interesting in terms of how the Predators keep track of these characters that aren't the obvious deadly soldiers. I think that's
but they had no way to know that was his.
I mean, they were following people around on the planets, and they would have to like see, okay, this person is like a killer. We should abduct this person. That would make for an interesting comic, actually, is to follow around these predators on Earth that are doing the abducting and seeing them like track different
non-obvious people.
But yeah, I liked
that'd be fascinating.
The little arc with Alan as well. I thought it was cool, like, because at first he seemed very surprised, like, I just beat people up in a pub, right? But then he opens up more about his past, like, I used to be an enforcer. They used to call me the Axe. I'm not proud of what I did. So maybe he was, considered it surprising that someone would know about that if it was more in his past and he hadn't been living that life for a while. So,
and I just really liked Alan. I was genuinely upset when he died.
Yeah, I was hoping he would be like the next member of the crew, like he was saying.
Yeah,
like
but I mean, it was a little bit predictable. As soon as he was the equivalent of in a World War II film where you have a soldier go, "Oh, I got a wife and a kid. I got to get through this hellhole," and he's the guy who's going to die straight off. Alan did a similar thing, oh, when this is all over, I want to join up. And I thought, you've just killed yourself. He's going. But I thought he was going to at least get a good hit in.
Yeah, not using the axe for a character named the Axe, known for using an axe,
it felt
having
like,
a big ass predator axe.
Yeah,
it was a little Nolan-ish in terms of his demise.
I wanted to see him do something, but Predator shows up. Hello, gone. That's a shame.
But that's, I think the thing with Nolan is the death's cartoonish, which I think is where that fails for me personally. When it comes to him just being killed, I never have a problem with characters meeting sudden unfair deaths, and I didn't feel dissatisfied that Alan died. It was more just but I actually fucking liked him. More of a response than this is a bit stupid. I think Nolan's death is stupid. I didn't think Alan's was.
It's interesting that you have kind of multiple mutiny attempts with the people she picks up for different reasons. Like the first one just doesn't trust the corporation that's on the planet they were going to drop all these people off on when this was over. And
Which is
then
fair.
The second group, they were the OWLF soldiers, and they were thinking Theta was keeping too much of this information for herself, and that they
also
needed
fair.
yeah. And if Theta, as much as she gives what was the character's name?
The survivor.
Pull up my cheat. Isla, right? Isla. She kind of gives Isla a slap, like, oh, your daughter would be so proud. You're the reason, like, all them, like, the predators found us, and your husband's dead, and other people are dead because you turned on this thing without talking to me. So it's and she's very apologetic until she gets her head blown off. She's like, I'm so sorry, like I never meant to, and then she's dead. But at the end, Theta kind of acknowledges, like, they were actually kind of right. Like, I should be sharing more of this information. So,
which I think was what was interesting about both the mutiny attempts. I couldn't fault any of them for doing it as much as it was a shit thing to do, and I like it when characters do bad things for understandable and justifiable reasons. So I did actually quite enjoy both of those motivation attempts. I did think it was funny though, Theta's not wanting to hear her apology, because yes, at the end of the day, those OWF characters had no idea. They didn't know that turning that on would make it so that the predators could track them. But at the end of the day, they were also completely responsible for the deaths aboard. So, Theta was also justified in hating them. I love it when there's lots of shades of grey in what's going off. And that was very much a lot of what was happening with the back end of this comic. Really satisfying to me. Really satisfying. Any thoughts on that one, Eric?
No, I agree.
Okay, you're happy. You agree?
Well, aside from, I preferred the first part on the game preserve. The part on the ship didn't feel as satisfying to me, but yeah, as a whole,
yeah. Okay. So,
what was the name of the character that was like? She reminded me of Isabel. I'm sure she kind of did too. Yeah, Auja.
I don't know how you pronounce it. It's
AWJA. AWJA, wasn't it? Yeah.
She kind of felt like an Isabel type character. Like she had like the good heart soldier,
Mm. And she's the sole survivor of this one.
Yeah.
So I really like Theta getting knocked down a peg in this. So my issue with the first series was mainly in Marvel and Ed rushing to make Theta Machiko. That was my issue. It felt unearned. I wanted to see her on her first hunt of a predator, not having killed 30 fucking something predators as we're at in here. And that's where I hated the end of the first issue, because as they were all panicking and running and dying, it was so cool seeing the predators actually be lethal in that first issue. But as it was getting to the end of it, I was like, Theta's going to show up, kill this predator without any problem, and save everybody. Which is fucking exactly what happened, and was a little bit dissatisfying to me because going into the first issue, I still felt like Theta wasn't quite earned. I didn't feel like Marvel earned her. But then throughout this run, actually seeing her fail and earn it was a lot more satisfying for her in this one. You know, she loses an arm because she was distracted. She allowed herself to be distracted by something and suffers for it, you know, and she then begs the predator to just fucking end it. And I liked seeing her earn this kill, you know, earn her expertise, but also realizing that they didn't know quite as much about the predators as they thought they did. Because I think that's the problem with the first one, is the predators felt severely fucking underpowered. And that's a problem I have with any alien or predator stuff. I hate it when the alien or predator stuff are just dispatched easily. I hate it because that's not the point of the films. You know, the point of the films is it takes effort, it takes intelligence, it takes smarts. And in Predator's case, it takes luck. You know, the first film relies on luck.
Well, I like that line where
mention
they
it in
ask,
this.
how do you kill them? And they're like, bullets, lots and lots of bullets, and a lot of luck.
Metric shit ton of luck or something, yeah.
And it felt like Predator in here. You know, the first run never felt like Predator in terms of how they would deal with them. You know, I think there was one part in the first run that I thought was, you know, ingenuity, and it was Theta using the hoverbike's engine to kill one of them. You know, but throughout this, it felt a little bit more like that, apart from that first kill. But yeah, I was a lot happier with Theta's portrayal in here, and Paolo's. You know, I don't think Paolo had as much to do, which was a little unfortunate. But what he did have in here, I really enjoyed, and you know, the dynamic that he had with Theta and patching her up and stuff like that. So yeah, I was a lot more interested in Theta in here, and sort of the fact that we criticized the end of the first run in our podcast, where Theta achieved her goal of killing the predator that killed her parents. So it's like, well, what we're going to do now? And it was basically, let's just go find predators and kill them.
Let's
I guess
go genocide.
Yeah. Let's try and take out the entire species. But this one ended with less of a genocidal maniac kind of take of let's go find more of these humans. Let's go save them. And I liked that a lot more than let's go wipe out a species kind of thing.
It's very cartoonish often when you get someone, I've got something to kill for or die for, and the mirror, the inverse of that is, how about finding something to live for? You're finding the positive in that, and I liked that inverse, as you say. It was, we're going to find more humans, more people. It's that, and especially because of the time frame thing where they're taken from different time periods. I'm sure that's going to come into it more in later stories. I can almost guarantee it. But it felt nice, as you say. It's not like just continue the struggle to kill. It's finding something to live for. That was a nice theme.
Any thoughts on that one, Adam?
Yeah, no, it was interesting that they had that final survivor. I almost thought like, oh, maybe she'll stay with him as well. But it's like, no, you know, she wants to get back to Earth, and they still managed to save somebody. But they bring up that point like, hey, at least we saved one person, and that made it worth it. So yeah, and it was interesting seeing kind of the bond that had developed between Theta and Paolo, because this is like 5 years after the first arc. I was surprised it was that long after the first arc, honestly. But seeing them have developed more companionship and relying on each other, I thought was a good development for these two characters, and I'm looking forward to seeing what their next journey is. I do see room for more stories with Theta. I'm not tired of her as a character. It hasn't gotten like Amanda Ripley with her. So yeah.
Well, it feels like they've actually. I still want a prequel series with her doing her first sort of encounters and her first kills, because I'm always hung up on this. You didn't earn it. So I'm kind of like really hoping that they'll do an annual or something where it's perhaps, an early hunt to show us Theta learning and developing and figuring out these skills. And I do think it's a little unfair, unfortunate perhaps, that I can't get over.
Well, you'll notice when her and Alan, they put on all the stuff, and he says to her, "Well,
It's an
can you
mentions
move
to be
with
in
all
an
that weight?"
exosuit.
And she does mention that it is like power armor, basically. And at that point, I thought, is that them acknowledging she was doing it a bit too easily in the first run? It felt like but that retcon is okay because it doesn't justify it. But like you, I would have preferred in the original if it had been
one of the early
she's tracking one, but then she does like a flashback, and most of the story would have been about the early adventures, and then it flashes forward, and right at the end of that, it would have been like after she's killed however many, and it maybe she didn't kill them all by one-on-one combat. Maybe some of them were caught in a spaceship explosion or something.
Or just showing a bit of
yeah,
traps and ingenuity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was something we didn't get to see a lot of.
No, and you'll notice
in the first series,
in the first and second Predator film, it feels the film draws you in when it's Dutch and Harrigan having to function as the underdog. They're being forced. They're not just setting up traps because that's their professional. They're doing it because necessity is the mother of invention, and that makes them more interesting. So that's why with a character like Theta, okay, doing the same kind of thing, but she'd have had access to knowledge of physics and stuff that we don't now have now. It would have been more interesting if she had the underdog status to start out.
Even Predators, it's Royce's use of the fire as a way to blind, the
primal
berserker
forces,
and being able to get in and out until the Predator does, what we obviously know it can do, and change the vision mode to find some other way of seeing it. But it's Royce using that, intelligence and cunning and ingenuity to try and find a way around it. That was sort of something that I've always felt we liked with Theta's methods. It's just, like I mentioned, that biker bit, which was cool, and there was a bit towards the end of the first run where it looked like, Theta was demonstrating a knowledge of the Predators, in where she was like, we need to draw it in, we need to get it, close quarters so it can't move and be agile and stuff like that. And the Predator recognizing what she was doing and throwing a bomb in the room. But then we end up with this really anticlimactic end to that fight where it just wasn't satisfying, and it never felt quite like Predators in that way. And to be fair, to some degree, I don't think the combat in this also hits that. The first death was entirely by surprise, which I suppose is kind of Predator-ish in that the Predator was tunnel visioned on, the prey in front of him. So that sort of speaks towards the, the overconfidence, the arrogance that can sometimes be the downfall of them. And I suppose they kill the second one. The third one, sorry, should I say. That's a tough fight, I thought. It did feel like Theta was about to die. It seemed like everybody else had died, and there was a really cool panel of the Predator leaning down, the blood, of everybody else sort of dripping off its mask and onto her face. So that was kind of a nice earned one. But I thought the second death was, I was unsure about it because it was the Predator killed himself.
That I'm glad you brought that up. That was actually probably my main nitpick of the whole comic, because the Predator was injured by this pack of of the river ghosts, and then one of his hunting partners shows up and saves him, and then he just activates his self-destruct and kills himself. And I was like, well, he was defeated, so it's an honor thing. But it goes to what you were saying, Aaron. It's a bit too space samurai-ish. I'm like, well, if he's still alive, he can heal himself and rejoin the hunt. Like,
And I don't think it was like he was even missing any limbs or couldn't carry on fighting. It was literally just it looked like he was about to. Maybe it was because he was about to die. Like if the hunting guy hadn't showed up, the Predator was, it was going to die at the hands of the river ghost. But it did sort of make me. I did raise my eyebrow at that one because you know how much I hate my my Predators as Klingons.
Yes.
So
I fully agree.
It felt like I was about to be defeated, so I must kill myself. Like,
yeah,
it's like, come on.
Predators feel like they'd just be, fuck you. I'm gonna learn from this and go all harder. They're not just gonna go, okay, hands up. I'm gonna.
That was. But what is it? How do you say the Japanese killing yourself?
Harikari or seppuku?
Harikari, yeah. They fall on your sword, basically.
Yeah, I hate that. I hate the honor thing with the Predators, especially because the first one in the fucking comic shows evidence of failure, I suppose, in a way. Because I was gutted he died. I fucking loved it. I think he was easily the best designed Predator in the comic, where he had a huge hole in his mask. That is evidence of failure in a way right there, because something's obviously done enough damage to put a hole in his fucking space mask. So
he wears it with pride. So
yeah, exactly. And that's always been a better thing about the Predators, is them wearing their scars with pride.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wasn't too keen on that death, and I wasn't too keen on that particular Predator design going out so early. I do wish. I think in the comics in general, I do wish did a better job at making the Predators a bit more unique in terms of their appearances. It's one of the great things about the films is all the individualistic designs of the Predators, and the comics, I think, need to do a better job of
embracing that. Yeah, because there's really only been like a few Predator characters in comics that we like prominently remember, right? Like the Chonde, Ahab. So
the Predators from Bad Blood.
It's not just visually look. I mean, I can say it's nice to see it when they've got something distinctive visually, but the other thing, I think the EU in general, I think, needs to work better on making Predator behavior more unique, individual, because then it's like, okay, you can look really awesome, but then if it doesn't act any differently to a generic Predator number 5 or something, then you come back to the whole you haven't earned it thing. They're just making it look good, but what is it about the Predator? Like, you can have a Predator dressed up as normal, but something it does, something a little bit off about, like, you go back to the original Predator film. This is without any of the sequels. We've not seen any of that yet, but you had that moment where Arnold, he says, come on, kill me now. And you were expecting monster rubber suit guy to go, right, I'm going to kill you. And you expected Arnold Schwarzenegger to kick that. It was going to kill the Predator. And it did something which at that time, we as film audiences weren't prepared for, where it goes to, and then it notices these sharp, and it even sort of caresses one with its thumb, and it says, over there, you, stay there. I'm going to go bypass. That felt, this is something different. And that was part about what made the Predator, I want to see more of this. that made that original Predator. It's had experience. It knows tricks and stuff. Like in the first AvP film, the Anderson film, where you had Scar different. He wasn't like the Predator that got killed because it was arrogant. There was an alien creeping down, and without even looking at it, it just kills it without even looking at it, puts it away, and that feels like someone who's seen stuff, done stuff. He's probably been injured or had someone he knows or she knows been injured in the past. He's learned from it. I would like more Predators to look like they've been through things and have learned
and have a bit of character to them.
Their behavior. Yeah, it might be something emotional, but something extra would make that Predator. I want to see more of them, regardless of what they're wearing.
I think again, this is kind of going to that desire to see an early hunt with Theta, but it'd be nice to see one Predator in a series, give it a chance to have quirks, give it a chance to be given character. There's a reason we all fondly remember Ahab or fondly remember, Broken Tusk or the Bad Blood or the Enforcer. Let's focus on them dying, more focus on the Predator characters and being threatening to the protagonists.
And what have the Predators done to have earned those trophies? What have they done to it? You make the Predators look like they've earned it too.
I still think, there should be like a comic where the Predator is the main character. We really haven't seen that much, if at all.
The comics are a good place to do it.
Yeah.
I would never, and I think it's unrealistic for any of the fans that sort of whine about it to expect, it in a theatrical.
Yeah, it's not going to happen in a film.
It's never going to happen. But places like comics, places like animated shorts or straight to DVD animated kind of things, I think is a great place to play around with it.
The films need the last thing Predators need in the films is to be further demystified, to stay with the Predator all the time. In the comics, like even a 20-minute CGI film or something, fantastic. You can do that. But with a film, it's going to be hour and a half, 2 hours. You stay with the Predator all the time. We need to mystify them. That's one of the things I loved about Prey. They brought that sense of a mythological less is more thing about it. People forget less is more is so powerful when it's done right.
And that was even with spending time with Ferrell. Prey wasn't shy about giving us scenes with Ferrell, but yes, I completely agree. And I agree with you, Adam. It would be cool just to see a bit more individualisticness going on.
I guess we've seen it a couple times in some earlier comics, like Blood Time, but usually they're like the shorter run ones. They're the
one shots. Yeah. I best bring my notes up here. Oh, speaking of Space Samurai, and I don't know if the trade of the original did this, but one random use of the word Yautja in all the summaries in the start of this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Surprised you caught that.
The summaries was always going on about the Predator this, the Predator that, and then just one sentence was like a Yautja, and I was like,
I'll say it's interesting that the OWLF soldiers brought up references to the Predator 2018, like Stargazer, and they said Tennessee and Georgia. I'm like, y'all keep referencing this movie that we didn't like. It's like, at this point, just give us the director's cut already if you're going to keep doing that.
Did you also notice they did it, AWLF, they did it wrong. They said otherworldly life form.
No, that's
in the film, if otherworld life form.
That's the way Wikipedia has it.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always seen it as other world life form or other world's life form. I don't know.
I had a look at it as well because I noticed it.
I prefer otherworldly life. That sounds better. But what I remember in Predator 2, they out and out say otherworld life form, or it's got it written down on the screen. I think actually, I don't know, something like that.
I did very much like having them being OWLF characters, though. This was something we talked about in the past on other things, where it always felt like a waste never revisiting the concept of the OWLF. And one of the reasons the Predator was kind of shitty was getting rid of that concept and going for this crappy Stargazer thing. And, it was one of the things we praised about Hunting Grounds.
Yeah.
It was
Retconning
returning it
that.
to... Yeah. So I really liked seeing them in this, seeing those two characters in this. Thought that was a great sort of fix. Again, they're not the primary characters in this, although they end up being a big antagonist towards the end of the run. But this series had a lot of little things that I was like, yes, this works. Things with like the River Ghost, things with like revisiting the hunting preserve. But there was lots of smaller elements. I was like, yes, this is good. I like this. This is the kind of things I wanted to see again.
But yeah, this was the second thing that mentioned like, oh, we were Stargazer for a while and now we're OWLF again. So I guess that is kind of being taken and ran with after Hunting Grounds. So that's nice.
Suits me. Did anybody notice that Theta had a converted plasma caster as a pistol?
Oh, when was this? I must have missed this one.
This was when she was arming up in... this was when I noticed it was when she was arming up with Alan in the ship's armory.
Oh, okay.
And it looked like she'd converted a plasma caster, put like a little foregrip on the front of it and was holding it like a pistol, which I thought was cool. I like that.
Yeah. I thought that was a callback to Requiem. I don't know if it was.
Yeah,
but it felt
maybe.
like it was, yeah.
And I'm still annoyed by the artists putting dreadlocks on the masks.
Yes, I was the one who picked up on that last time.
I mean, I think it looks cool. I don't know what the practical reason it would be for her is. Maybe if she wanted to like try and trick a predator or something, but they're not going to be fooled by that. So it's like,
I told you guys last time she's a psycho. She's taken a scalp.
She scalped
she's nailed it in there.
Yeah. It's like the silly fucking mechanical dreadlocks on the Predator Hunter suit at the end of the Predator. So no, it's a mask. The dreadlocks aren't a part of the mask. Can we stop putting them on Theta, please?
But it serves a purpose because there were a couple of scenes where she and a predator went head to head, and I was thinking, okay, which one is the predator? If she didn't have the dreadlocks, it would serve to differentiate her in the predator armor against the other one. Like when Machiko did it, after a while she made her hair into dreadlocks, which I think was a mistake. I think if she just had the normal hair with the predator mask, it actually suits her better in the Machiko art. Here it would have been the same. I would have preferred her not having the dreadlocks. It would help.
Yeah, but that's about her assimilating into the predator culture, though, isn't it? That's all part of that
art. But Theta's not doing that. Theta's just doing it like jerry-rigging herself to hunt them. Yeah.
I genuinely think it's just a mistake.
I did too.
In these comics, yeah.
Well, unless they're going to bring it in another sequel, maybe they'll explain it. But for the moment, I don't know. It's weird.
So I don't really have a lot more to say about this one. It's just one I genuinely enjoyed, aside from a few lines, and I think it says something to it in terms of they do lots of little things that I would love to see expanded on, without being frustrating. Aliens Infiltrator frustrated me because there was lots of little things in that I liked, that I wanted to see expanded, but the Infiltrator did it poorly, which frustrated me even more. I didn't have this with Predator the Preserve. It was lots of little things I liked, all wrapped up in a really entertaining package. Sure, I would love to see certain elements given more focus or specific focus in a future series, in a future comic, in a future short story, but it was all still so genuinely entertaining that it was all just part of a really nice package, and I really liked it. I thoroughly enjoyed rereading this, and I'm really looking forward to getting the trade and revisiting it again. And I hope that other pieces of lore going forwards pick up on some of the stuff in this and run with it.
Yeah, definitely. And if you are interested in picking up the trade, any of you watching or listening, it comes out October 24th, I think. Let me make sure of that here. Yes, October 24th. So that is when the trade paperback and the digital version of all of them together is scheduled to be released. Interesting, during this run, there was kind of a bit of rebranding with the publishing. I mean, it's still produced by Marvel, but they changed like the prominent Marvel logo on the front, and now it's like the 20th Century Studios logo. And I guess they're doing that with both this and the Planet of the Apes comics.
And Alien.
That's right, and Alien as well.
Yeah. Which it's cool. It's fine. I mean, I don't quite know why they've done it. I would have
might
thought
be aligning for future screen releases. They might be trying to get the branding all kind of.
Yeah, I just would have thought Marvel was more of a selling point, I guess. And it's not like them being Marvel comics has reduced the amount of gore that was in them or anything like that. So yeah, it's a marketing choice I don't understand. But I'm not a
You'd have to ask the Disney executives.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's word come down from on high. I think they're just trying to make one single branding thing.
So, final thoughts from you guys?
Yeah, solid. Like I said, about an 8. Like, I definitely recommend it. And yeah, I thought it was better than the first Predator arc. Certainly better than the first few Alien arcs. Not to get too into it on this podcast, but I've been enjoying what I've read of Thaw so far. So seems like things are looking up for Marvel with these franchises. So that's awesome. That's what I like to see.
Yeah, it's worth picking up. It's a fun read. It's don't look for anything too deep, but if you just want some Predator action, I think it's also worth pointing out. I don't think you even need to have read the previous story. I think you can just jump into this one. If you haven't read the previous one, I don't think it harms the story. So yeah, I think that's also in case some people were wondering about that.
So I'm just checking to see because I did put out like a post. No, nothing really there. Okay, nothing really to add. So yeah, I'm all talked out of this one. We can wrap up if you guys are happy to.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry I was so croaky today, everybody. I just got over a cold, so that's never fun. But
you've been using that as an excuse, haven't you?
Yes, actually.
So thank you everybody for listening. As always, be sure to head on over to avpgalaxy.net and check out our other podcasts, check out our other content. Head on over to our YouTube page, check out some of our videos. I just did a big lore piece on Paul Church in the comic, in the a comic book adventure game, and a very near return to the current expanded universe. It's all in there. Head on over to the YouTube and check out the other bits and pieces, and hopefully the Patreon is up by the time I've done this. Head on over, support us if you're able to, and help us get more content out to you. You can find me on Twitter @_Corporal Hicks.
If you'd like to follow me personally, it's at RidgeTop21 on both Instagram and X, I guess it is now.
Oh, yes, X. Sorry, not Twitter.
Oh, yes. I've been doing some videos on cinema films with AJ Voodoo Magic, for those of you who remember him. That's on the YouTube channel of The Beer and the Brandy. And I will also be doing my own YouTube channel soon. So watch this space.
Cool. Right, well, thank you everybody for listening or watching. This has been Corporal Hicks.
RidgeTop.
Xenomorphine.
Get into the chopper.